it could be a pretty wild ride here in Jacksonville. Already has been this week when it comes to the Jags, and last night was no different. We've got more news that the Jaguars' offensive line is sticking together. Let's run it back in Jacksonville as this offensive line. Brandon Sheriff, the report, restructured contract. We know Ezra Cleveland. That broke during our show yesterday. We also had Darius Williams break during our show earlier in the week, along with Rayshawn Jenkins. Hey, Austin Lane, maybe this is a good time to do a show. We get some breaking news. What's going to happen today?
I know, man. I can't wait. Wild ride my ass. It's the same ride we've been on for the past year now. We're just going to re-up it and do it all over again. It's like being on the It's a Small World ride in Disney and being caught in there. And that's kind of how I feel right now. You essentially have the same offensive line. Now they could make a change at center. They could bring somebody else in. But the way this team looks right now, Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson said, you know what? Throwing it back.
Yeah, I think it brings a lot of questions. Yesterday, we started the show, or not started the show, but at some point we got to Cam Robinson, Walker Little. Like, who is your left tackle? I don't think we know that part. But based on their words, and their words also told me that Darius Williams is going to be on the roster, so this is where I caution even myself. But based on their words, Cam Robinson's going to be back. That's what, at least the indication. They didn't slam dunk say that, but they said he was under contract last week at the Combine. Both gentlemen echoed that, and so we kind of felt like Cam Robinson would be back. So right now we got to go with Cam being your left tackle until they make a move, even though from a business standpoint, it might make sense to make a move and save some money and put that maybe into a free agent center or something like that. So we don't know the Walker Little Cam Robinson situation. We could talk more about that, but we've kind of talked about it a bit yesterday on the show. The question now becomes, are they going to ride with Luke Fortner, or are they going to try to upgrade that spot? And if they do upgrade that spot, is that satisfying enough for all of us on the outside?
I mean, people seem to think that if you just change the center around, the other pieces are going to be fine. And I would echo and say not so fast, just because if you look at this offensive line in totality, I mean, if you want to go by rankings, PFF, all this stuff, the only person to actually have, I think it was over 54 in terms of a grade, was Brandon Sheriff. Everybody else was below that, not just Luke Fortner. So are they trying to bide their time with Cam Robinson? Maybe have a trade proposal there? Because I do feel like you can get something for Cam Robinson, right? I think there is a need in the NFL for left tackles, whether they're fringe elite or fringe starters, whatever the case may be. He's a left tackle. He has a lot of experience. He has played well at times. I think teams are intrigued by that. So definitely get something for Cam Robinson if you want to let him go. But to say you're going to run it back and then replace the center, I think you're putting a lot of faith right now in your coaching to get a better performance than you did last year. And good. I mean, I want coaches to be held accountable. I want coaches to bring out the best of their players. But we've been echoing this thing the entire show. We've been on here for about a month now, is the fact of, are we taking care of Trevor Lawrence? Are we going to let Trevor Lawrence succeed here? I would argue bringing back the entire offensive line and maybe interchanging the center, is that letting him succeed?
Well, listen, if they bring back the same offensive line, including Luke Fortner, you're looking at a football team, Austin, that wasn't very good on offense last year, at least to meet expectations. I mean, at times they were, but they weren't good enough, let's just say that. And they disappointed on the offensive side of the football. You could be looking at a football team that brings back everybody from that disappointment, except for Calvin Ridley, who had 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's dangerous on paper. Like, it feels a little bit like malpractice on paper to do that. I mean, it really does. Listen, I can buy into a lot of these things. I can even defend the roster more than others will around town, but that feels off. Like, that doesn't feel right, that you're going to bring everybody back. Now, will they add a couple pieces in the draft and things? But if they bring everybody back on this offensive line, and we know they have Ingram, we know they have Brenton Strange, we know they have ETN, we know they have Trevor, we know they have Tank Bigsby, we know they have Zay Jones, we know they have Christian Kirk. I mean, you really could bring one new player into the fold that will see significant playing time on offense from a team that disappointed a year ago. Are we just saying we got hurt? Are we just saying we didn't perform to the capabilities that we have and we're going to do it better? Are we just saying we're going to coach it better? Is that it? That's what we're going to go on? That's what we're going to sell season tickets for? That's what we're going to get you excited about 2024 is saying, hey, don't worry. We're going to add this piece in the draft or maybe free agency to take the place of Calvin Ridley, and everything else is going to be just better.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly pretty much what they're telling us right now. And listen, they don't have a lot of money I get they freed up some space, but it's not like they have a load of money to be spending anyways with Josh Allen now, this new contract, hopefully getting done sooner rather than later. But if I'm Trevor Lawrence and I'm Trevor Lawrence's camp, I'm keeping receipts right now. And I'm looking at, okay, what has this team done to help me succeed? If I find myself on my back, heaven forbid, knock on wood, banged up next year, I'm taking a mental note of this. And when it's time to structure a new contract, a new 5-year deal, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to go back to this and say, what have you guys done to help me out? What have you guys done to help me succeed? And if they can't honestly answer the question like I want to hear it, then guess what? I might test the market. I might see who's interested. Why not? I want to be taken care of. I'm supposed to be a franchise elite, generational type quarterback. Brent Martineau was in the middle of the bar with the Jets jersey on, cheering when I came to Jacksonville. What do you do to take care of me?
Yeah, listen, I've been preaching that for a couple months now, man. I've been preaching how this looks, what you say to him, how that part of it is certainly in his camp. I mean, his camp has a lot of power here and leverage the way they're building this thing if it doesn't work out. I mean, they really do. And it's part of the reason why we had the argument, or not argument, but discussion earlier this week that, hey, I'd pay him now. I don't care. Like, take care of it, because you don't want to get muddy later on because of situations like this that could potentially arise. We have seen it across the NFL. We have seen it here in Jacksonville. But back to the offensive line specifically, I do get the sense, I try to make sense of it, first of all, but I believe that if they upgrade the center position, I think the fan base will be a lot happier about everything else falling in place. I think people do like Cam Robinson. I do think people actually are okay with Walker Little if he were to be the guy over there. I think people like Anton Harrison and what they saw. I do think restructuring Sheriff on the price tag makes some sense to me. He isn't coming off a terrible year. Like, he really isn't. They got to stretch him for one more, it sounds like, and get really good play out of him. But he's a veteran guy that knows how to play the game of football.
I mean, if you want to go to rankings and grades and all this stuff, he was their best offensive lineman last year. Now, I do think you could have upgraded in terms of even the guard play. Like, you could have found somebody else for him, but keep in mind, if you're going to let him go, that's kind of a lot of money in dead cap. I think it was what?
Yeah, it was $15
million in the dead cap, which, I don't really know exactly what that means. I know it's not good. I mean, pretty much.
It wasn't a big enough win to let him go and then sign somebody else. You'd be really paying a lot for that right guard position on the dead cap stuff, and also on a new contract for a guy like Robert Hunt. So this is more logical. They were able to restructure. They just have to get good play. Now, listen, he played better last year for them. He's a grizzled guy. I don't mind a veteran player on that offensive line that knows how to play the game.
You need one.
Yeah. And I think somebody said he was like third amongst right guards in pass pro, according to PFF or something. Okay. Again, he was not a problem last year for you, in my opinion. Left guard, I did ask this question. Ezra Cleveland, you get him for whatever the price is. People will say you overpaid, but the price is what it is. I don't know the alternative at left guard. There's not like these names like the Robert Hunts of the world or anybody that jump out at you. I don't know what else you were supposed to do. They now have some stability at left guard. Does that help? Yeah, I got to believe it does. So I really do think this comes back to the center position. We can all feel better, and I'm sorry, Luke Fortner, but if they upgrade that position, if we feel like it's solidified, if we feel like it's going to take care of the rest of the interior and Trevor Lawrence, I think we will feel a lot better about what's going on here if they have a center in here in free agency, really. I don't even like the idea of having a draft pick. If you had to get there, fine. But I love the idea of having a free agent center signed next week. That would then say, okay, we got a new face on the center of that offensive line to kind of help rebuild this thing. And then you can talk about, okay, Phil Rauscher, it's up to you, baby. You better get these guys to play better. You guys better play better. And then it'll be all up to them. So it's pretty wild. I think contractually it said that we were going to have more guys than people wanted back in Jacksonville anyway on that offensive front. But I think this all comes down to the center position. It really does. So I have this overall thought last night when I see the news of Sheriff and I start seeing everybody kind of, okay, here we go again. We're doing this. We're going to run everything back. I think this is going to sound like crazy because it's not like what they're going to do. But let's just say they come back with Fortner.
Okay.
If they do that, I thought about They should tell, like, what are you going to tell the fans? Like, what's your explanation? You're not physical enough. You said that to us coming off the end of the season. You're not good enough in the run game, in the short yardage situations, in the physical part of playing offense for this conversation. We'll get to defense later. And you're going to run it back with the same guys. So if you're willing to do that, then put your job on the line.
Well, I think it is on the line.
Well, it might be, but I want you to put the job on the line. We think this is so going to work so much that if it doesn't, we don't need Shad Khan to fire us. We'll get ourselves out the door. Like, I know that's not going to happen, but I want them to you got to show some belief to the fan base, man. Like,
this is the belief, Brent. Them bringing the entire offensive line back, and once again, just for the exercise, saying that Luke Fortner is going to be the starting center going forward, that's putting it all on the line. That's saying that we're confident in our evaluation of players, whether you're Trent Baalke and also Doug Peterson, and you're saying that we're confident in our player development. You're putting the chips all in here. If they go with the exact same offensive line as last year, and once again, just for the exercise, the exact same offensive line as last year, and it's the same result, Trevor's banged up, Trevor's frustrated, you sign your death sentence.
Absolutely.
To me, this is all in. Like, they don't have to say, hey, we're putting our jobs – your jobs are on the line.
Yeah, you don't have to say it, but you got to still sell it. Like, I believe in this so much that you'll see. Like, give me something. Give me something that, hey, don't worry. We got, like, I don't think we're all going to believe you anyway. But give us something. Give it something to Shad so you can say, hey, we got this. This is what's going to work. This is in the best interest of our football team to do this.
What do you want him to say?
Something like that. Okay. I want them to make the fans feel better about running it back on an offense that disappointed.
Okay.
About a team that, forget about even the execution of things and the injuries. We know they weren't physically good enough. Yeah. But all of a sudden, the weight room program in the offseason is going to make us better in that category?
Listen, I don't need an explanation. Maybe some fans do. I don't need listen, it's clear as day. If you're going to retain this entire offensive line and run it back, I know exactly what you're doing. You're saying our coaching has to be better. We like these guys, and let's wait and see. I don't need a Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke PR stunt to say, hey, please bear with us, everybody. We know last year wasn't that good, but trust us this year, we're going to coach them better. No. I mean, it's really all or nothing this year. It's an important year for Trevor. It's an important year for this offense. And if you get the best offensive line, then so be it. Then you can be like, hey, we all told you.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I don't need any explanation.
Yeah, I do. You know why I do?
Why do you do?
Austin, I need accountability. I need accountability, and I need accountability in the words. You can't sit here and tell us that. So the end of the year news conference with Trent Baalke was, we're not physical enough. We're not physical enough. We got to get more physical. We got to get more physical. How's the strength and conditioning program? Oh, it's great. We love it. They're awesome. Okay, you're not changing that. How are we getting more physical? How are we getting more physical? Like, how are you fixing that? Like, how's the fix if we have the same guys, the same offensive line coach, which means the same scheme, the same strength and conditioning program?
I mean,
how can you get get in front of a microphone and say physically we're not good enough and then not do anything physically to change on your roster?
Once again, this isn't me talking. This is what the dialogue could very well be. If I'm Trent Baalke, if I'm Doug Peterson, I'm going to stress the point of the importance of gelling and then the importance of, chemistry. And we're bringing the exact same guys back. Once again, maybe Luke Fortner gets replaced, whatever the case may be. But we're bringing a majority of offensive line back. Another year of cohesiveness, another year of chemistry, because I would argue and say that in terms of chemistry and cohesiveness, the offensive line is probably the most important position or most important, side of the ball when we're talking about that. So I would use some rhetoric like, you know what? We understand that you guys may not buy in us right now, but we think another year of cohesiveness with this offensive line, better coaching is only going to elevate things. And once again, this isn't me talking. This is Doug Peterson, maybe Trent Baalke talking, which I don't need to hear.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, hey, you know what? But again, say it.
Okay.
Say it in front of a microphone. So when it doesn't work out, you are held accountable for it.
Brent, they'll be held accountable regardless.
Yeah,
You don't think if this offensive line does what they do this past season, and it's the exact same one, you don't think Jags Twitter is going to hold them accountable?
Well, Jags Twitter is one thing. It's not just
Well,
Jags Twitter. It's
the
like,
fan base, sorry.
well, it's a fan base and the owner.
Okay.
And the owner, too. Like, if it's out there, man, if you're telling me, the one thing I will say about Shad is that he wants a plan, and he wants you over the time of his ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I always go back to this because this is where I know it basically happened. It was Malarkey and Gene Smith. The reason why he cut that so quickly is because they had told him that, hey, we can do this, this, this. Like, this was the plan. And remember, it was a whole Tebow thing at that time. It's like, we don't need Tebow. We don't need Sign Tebow. We don't need that. We're good. Like, we got this. They won 2 games. Shad was like, I thought we got this.
Well,
I thought we were in good shape.
Tebow wasn't going to make a difference.
No, I get it. It was just the whole thing. Like, it wasn't just the Tebow thing, but it was the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel like from an ownership standpoint, Shad is like, he might have rope and he might be loyal and he might be patient, but if you tell him a plan and it doesn't look anything like it, I think he holds you to that. Now, what is he saying? What are these guys saying behind closed doors? I don't know. But I just would like to hear it from them when we have a news conference or whenever this thing goes down. Like, hey, we're good enough here. You'll see. We do need all the things you just mentioned. I get it, Austin. I do think it's a cohesive chemistry position. I do think when you have those, I can buy into some of that. Mm-hmm. But I can't, on a year where I defended them running back a little bit, like I wouldn't say all in on it, but I wasn't as harsh for them running it back. I could see what they were doing. They had invested money and draft picks capital into this football team, and they had to see what they had with it. They couldn't just pull the plug on stuff and then go replace. Now, they could have, but I'm just saying it didn't make a lot of business sense, logical sense to do it. You could see natural growth. The thing that they missed on from 22 to 23 is they got really lucky with injuries, and they had a softer schedule. And they can't just bank on that happening again. But now you do that 1 year, and now you come back and tell me you're going to do it again? You're going to basically do, I know we're going to be different on defense here in Jacksonville. I get it. But on the offensive side of the ball, which is supposed to be your identity, you're going to basically do it again, maybe minus Calvin Ridley, the guy that went for 1,008 touchdowns. So, like, that is a hard thing to buy into in Jacksonville.
Okay, but keep in mind, if Calvin Ridley is indeed gone, they're going to replace him.
I get it.
Like, you're not going to go to Shad Khan and say, yeah, we got rid of Calvin Ridley. We like what we have.
Yeah.
No. Like, that will be addressed during the NFL draft. I'm not a doubt in my mind if free agency doesn't work out.